Ensenada is a Mexican city and port in the state of Baja California. With a population a little bit smaller than 500,000 and located on the Pacific coast, it is a place that I call home. It is also a uniquely biodiverse place both within Mexico and in a global scale. This is because the area of the city falls within the Californian coastal chaparral ecoregion, making it part of one of only 5 regions in the world with Mediterranean vegetation and climate. What characterizes this ecoregion is its arid to semi-arid climate, with primarily winter rains, and occasional fire seasons as part of its natural climate cycle. It has endemic and characteristic plant species, such as live forevers, the California holly, the knobcone pine, lemonade berry, jojoba, white sage, and coast live oak, among many others. Besides being located on the Pacific coast, it is home to kelp forests and endemic marine species, also distinctive of the region and of great importance. These local ecosystems are what provide Ensenada with a diversity of greatly important services. Of material importance, such as water provision, food provision, particularly from the sea, and protection against natural disasters, as well as those of social importance like recreation and nature appreciation. However, increasing urban expansion also threatens the natural environment of the region, and pushes it out to more fragile locations like hilltops and urban edges. Additionally, this results in the fragmentation of natural areas, and more importantly, endangers the provision of ecosystem services to the city. In an arid region, water scarcity is an ever-growing problem, as is the increasing vulnerability of urban centers to deal with wildfires and other natural disasters, and increasing climate change is not doing us any favors. And it's not something that is unknown, as Ensenada has increasingly dealt with issues in its provision of water to its residents. The local population is aware of the natural degradation occurring in the region, just as they are aware of the importance and uniqueness of its ecosystem, even if they aren't aware of particular species beyond the most charismatic ones. After all, the city is deeply related to its surrounding ecosystem, and this is reflected in the population's use of natural areas for recreation and for cultural uses. These sites include the Cañón de Doña Petra, La Bufadora, the Vigía Viewpoint, El Estero, El Arroyo and Beach at San Miguel, and the Lagoon at El Ciprés. These sites are often used by locals as recreation sites, but they might also attract tourists and are of overall cultural and biological importance to the city. Additionally, there are many sites which are not traditionally considered as part of the city's natural areas, yet are important holders of biodiversity and remnants of the pre-existing ecosystems of the region. These include the Arroyo Ensenada, the Emilio López Zamora Dam and its extended watershed, the coastal dunes and beaches, and the hills and mountains around the city, particularly those around Microondas Trinidad, Valle Dorado, and Punta Banda. All of these areas are important ecologically, maintaining the region's biodiversity and endemic species, as well as for providing ecosystem services, as mentioned previously. Given the prominence of freshwater features, such as the Lagoon at El Ciprés, the San Miguel and Ensenada streams, and even the watershed of the city's dam, the provision of water to the city's residents is heavily linked to the conservation of these areas. The urban periphery, generally closer to the hillsides with extant vegetation, is additionally vulnerable to wildfires, which might be intensified and extended by the presence of non-native species and the degradation of the surrounding ecosystem. And the overall lack of green spaces within the urban core also lends importance to maintaining the areas as recreational natural areas, like the Cañón de Doña Petra and Punta Banda. As such, given the myriad uses and services provided to us by nature, it highlights the increasing need for protecting and restoring natural areas in Ensenada. Some solutions are already implemented or being planned for to provide protection for natural zones, particularly in areas voluntarily destined for conservation, as well as municipal level protection for natural areas. However, this solution is not being implemented at sufficient scale for all the natural areas of the city, and while it might achieve the protection of species or a specific zone, it does not consider the interconnection and relevance of nature for Ensenada and its population. Additional interventions for sustainability are necessary to not only conserve natural ecosystems, but restore them, and to face growing problems of the urban population. Nature-based solutions could be an interesting proposal for the city, as these are designed to address biological degradation and societal challenges simultaneously, resulting in benefits for both human well-being and to natural ecosystems. The implementations of a nature-based solution in Ensenada would require the design of a project specific to a natural zone or particular socio-ecological issue. The project must also consider the numerous stakeholders for the particular case, also taking the different political and social scales into account. from local and community level up to federal and state policies that impact the implementation of such an initiative. The project must, at its core, combine the engagement with the issue as both a social and ecological problem, intertwined in its impacts. The result would be a solution that achieves gains for biodiversity and responds to a societal change. Finally, the project would also need to be carried out and managed in a sustainable fashion, being economically viable with an engaging governance structure, being actively measured, and designed to be applicable in the long term. An example of such a project in the city of Ensenada could be the implementation of rainwater capture for recharging the watershed and aquifer that fulfills the city's water needs. This could be done through the implementation of green roofing, replacement of concrete and asphalt with open soil, and even the restoration of native vegetation, which are more adapted to absorbing and using water with the given seasonality of the local climate and water availability. If well planned and implemented, discussed with the communities upon which these solutions are to be applied and the other affected parties, the solution could lead to more stable supply of water, less pressure on the existing resources, and reduced proneness to drought. Additionally, a project like this could also have positive impacts in preventing the spread of wildfires, which are intensified by extended drought periods, and even help protect the presence and quality of nature areas that serve recreational and cultural purposes to Ensenadenses. That is just an example of a possible application of nature-based solutions, but more developed projects could be designed for different socio-ecological problems, such as the access to food based on sea conservation and restoration, the increasing vulnerability of the population to fire, or even focusing on other issues not previously mentioned, such as a decreasing air quality, agricultural impacts, or the increased dependence on automobiles, among others. The implementation of nature-based solutions should not, however, imply the lack of action in other areas, such as better urban planning for the city, a decrease in emissions from both industry and private individuals, water conservation measures, or even outright protection for some natural areas, for instance. Simply put, nature-based solutions should be one tool among many to be implemented in order to face increasing socio-ecological pressures and the impacts of climate change, leading to a more sustainable and resilient Ensenada.